I'm alive. I shouldn't be.
He should not be alive. This is unfucking believable.
From the heart of trucker America, my boy Reed Coverdale, host of The Naturalist Capitalist.
This is what government does. It sucks.
If you think you're going to win people over by stating commonplaces, you're just selling the other part.
It is about dictating every transaction that you have for the rest of your life.
Mr. Potato Head.
Coverdale is the guy to be president of the United States.
You intimidated me with your perfect 74 stat.
That was the beginning of my problems.
He died doing what he loved, chasing a minor.
But I'll put a 50 cal attached to my Suburban.
Libertarians need to get out of New York.
The gulag is going to be in your house.
This guy's a fucking murderer. He deserves to be in a
Gotta get him out of that truck at night and get him into the White House.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Naturalist Capitalist. It is December, the last month of 2022, so the last Four Horsemen of 2022. We started these, in March of 2021. Done one every month. Although, no, we skipped one in September because of some shit that happened. But other than that, done one every month. It's been fun, and so here we all are. I hope everyone's getting ready for Christmas. It's coming right around the corner. It's been a crazy year. A lot has happened. I've certainly learned a lot, and I don't know, a lot's been happening around the world, so I've been grateful to have a lot of these conversations and talk to people about what's going on, because I certainly am not a vessel of a ton of information. I'm more of a conduit to people who really know what's going on, and it's been great to have all these conversations on the Four Horsemen, and then just other shows I've done with people, Dan McAdams, Ron Paul, Scott Horton, all sorts of people who know what's going on. So anyway, let's get into the show. As always, we've got my co-host, Eric JACKMAN. Eric, how you doing tonight, man?
Very, very well. The Four Horsemen is now legally old enough to drink, and we're going to be drinking Trump vodka. Believe me, making my favorite drink, which is also my favorite person, a White Russian. So it's going to be beautiful. Excited to be here, Reed. It's always a good time.
Always a good time. Of course, we've got Ryan Dawson of the Anti-Neocon Report. How are we doing tonight, Ryan?
Pretty good. Pretty sure I just got banned from Cozy TV. I won.
Wow, there's nothing you can't get banned off of, apparently.
Well, they couldn't handle it. You know, they had a bunch of Catholic bigots trying to pile on and stuff, and they couldn't handle it. Yeah, I can add that to most banned thing.
Gotcha. So,
you know,
tonight,
I could have had commercials and stuff on there, but I'm like, I cannot bring people in. I can't bring on guests like Scott Ritter and stuff when the Cozy Chat's talking about race realism and every day and saying the N-word and stuff. I'm like, this is why you don't have ads, because you have a toxic chat. They don't get it.
And lastly, we got our special guest. He's a good friend of mine. Got to meet him twice this year in person. Had him on the show several times. He is the host of the Vital Dissent podcast, and he's the Justin Raimondo Fellow for the Libertarian Institute. Pat MacFarlane, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, doing good, Reed. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So your interest in Ryan's films actually goes back farther than mine. Like, I think you've known about him longer than me. And you said, I remember we were talking at Freedom Fest that you used to watch him a long time ago, and you noticed that a lot of people like had kind of fallen away from it and then gone back into it more recently. And you were I just remember having a conversation with you about that, how you're happy to see people like resurfacing and actually talking about this stuff again. But what's your history with kind of delving into the 9/11 stuff and the Israel lobby stuff and just the stuff that Ryan talks about a lot?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first came into the movement, I kind of got into libertarianism and 9/11 at the same time. I wouldn't really call myself someone who's really well versed on that kind of stuff, but I watched James Corbett's stuff and Ryan Dawson's stuff, and I don't know. I got it more into foreign policy kind of after that, and then now that you've had Ryan on your show and stuff, there's more interest. And then getting to meet Adam Fitzgerald, who's a great guy, got to meet him in person with you. So yeah, it's just been good.
Yeah, Adam's larger than life. He's very tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fairly large guy. I'm 6'3", probably 210, 220. So seeing Adam looking up is not an experience I'm used to.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy too, so
Yeah.
jovial and friendly, and that was a great time, man. Me and Eric drive all the way down there to DC. We were with Ryan earlier in Texas that year at another Ron Paul Institute event, and some of the same guys showed up in DC that had been in Texas. It was I don't know, it was really just great, just a great time, great people, great conversation.
Yeah, it was nice to be in real life and take it off the internet. And for us guys who were, how old are you, Pat? I'm 36.
I'm 29.
Okay, you're 20, and Dawson's a little older than I am. But for us guys who were a little older, when the internet wasn't everything and wasn't life, and people didn't
when there was no internet,
when there was no internet, Dawson, you know, there were more things like that in person, in real life. You get together with people that you had you aligned with on certain things and had common interests, and you get together and do things in person and do conferences like that and go to political events. So I told Reed this a lot. You know, those events that I went to, the one I went to in March, Ryan, with you and Reed to hang out with Roger Waters was incredible and rejuvenating. And then going to the one in Texas was amazing and incredible. And then, you know, meeting you, Pat, and Dave DeCamp in person at the one down in Virginia was just, it was energizing. And it reminded me that there are still a lot of us out there who give a damn. And, you know, we're not just nameless, faceless trolls who live in our mom's basement, who shitpost all day and don't really have any skin in the game. We actually are out there and been fighting this fight for a while. So it was really awesome to meet you and connect with you and learn about, you know, the important work you're doing at the Libertarian Institute.
Nameless shit posting trolls. What's that remind me of?
People who throw drinks at people.
Oh, that incident, they threw ketchup at them first or whatever. But it's like, what do you think started all that? I don't know. Yeah. Probably some of the stuff they said on the Circus channel.
Right. So right now, Patrick, like, what is your main focus with the Libertarian Institute? Like day to day, you know, what motivates you? What drives you? You know, what are you working towards right now?
Well, the focus has been on combating this new Cold War with China. I mean, it's Dave DeCamp really turned me on to the fact that it's a big issue and that people don't really talk about it. And I had to really educate myself because, frankly, I didn't really know the first thing about China. And the depth of the topic, I mean, it's so immense. You're talking about a country that has a history, a recorded history going back just about as far as any. And but getting into that and, you know, diving into what I've kind of identified as being the WMDs of this new Cold War with China, which is the Uyghur issue, has been something that I've focused on, which it's a hard topic to talk about because you have to be very nuanced and really kind of know your stuff. So I've been focusing on that, and kind of it's like with like Scott getting into the Russia-Ukraine stuff really deep, and, you know, Kyle manning pretty much everything, and Connor really focusing on Iran and China. It's like we all self-select and pick our own topics of interest, and so we just try to fill the gaps where it needs to be filled. And a couple of years ago, I guess I happened to pick China when I got interested in this Uyghur stuff, and then things kind of went from there.
Yeah. So would you say, you know, your work and Dave's work and what you guys write about is kind of pushback against like the Jack Posobics of the world who, you know, blame everything on China, and we need to, you know, be prepared to go, all out war. I know, all out war with China, because that's kind of how I view what you're doing right now, Pat, which, you know, I appreciate and I like. Yeah,
well, thanks, Eric. I mean, your first mistake, though, is that no one is calling for war with China. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No one is calling for a war with China. You know, but I'm being sarcastic because that's, you know, that I've heard a whole lot. And then freaking, it's like, well, even John Bolton isn't calling for war with China, so I don't really know.
I'm confused. Are we talking about West Taiwan?
Yeah, West Taiwan.
Okay.
See, to mention, Tim Pool was someone who always talks about China, and he said something in one of his live streams. I think about Nancy Pelosi's visit. Right before she visited, he said, you know, personally, I think that that Taipei is the capital of China, and that, you know, and it made me kind of think, because I didn't think that Tim Pool really knew enough about the situation to know about the Chinese Civil War that happened and everything. So I figured, I don't know if someone is telling him that, somebody's in his ear, one of those people that he had on his show.
I'm surprised he knew where Taipei was.
Yeah. So kind of my feelings too, but it is what it is.
Well,
I like how every time someone's asks, you know, who should Tim Pool have on next, I like how Kyle Matovic always tags you and then says Tim Pool's an idiot and he needs to have this guy on to correct him on this. Like, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't think any of us are ever getting on there. Like, I'd like to think that one of us would at some point, but
no, he only has midwits.
Don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Usually he's had a couple like rogue. Wow, how'd that person get on? But
Horton got on, right?
Horton did get on. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
but
because he didn't know. He didn't know what he was walking into.
He didn't know how base Horton was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, they talked about China most of the time, and I really wish Scott could have gotten into the Middle East or Ukraine.
I think the most productive thing to come out of that exchange was the discussion about the Abraham Accords. And I think Scott really put Tim to task on that issue, and I think Tim realized that Scott really knows what he's talking about, which kind of ties into, I don't know, Reed, if we were going to talk about Ye and
oh yeah, we've got to.
Well, here's the nice transition here, is that the whole interesting part is that Nick Fuentes and Ye actually got the Abraham Accords right. Is one of the only things that they really got right, and even then it was like a really surface level thing, because I think Nick Fuentes was like, well, look at who's really causing all the war in the Middle East. It's Israel's been bombing the hell out of Syria, and that's about all he said. He didn't get into the assassination campaigns inside Iran. And
we got Ye here. Ye, what would you like to fill us in on this a little bit? Or
yo, where's my yoo-hoo in my net? It's net and it's yoo-hoo. Net and yoo-hoo, Alex. Stop putting evil in front of Nazi. Don't say evil no more. All right, let me get my Bible. Take my hand, hold my hand. Let's do a Bible. Let's do some Bible.
Oh man.
I think the point he was trying to make was, Matthew 5:43, which is the Matthew 5's the Sermon on the Mount, and that chapter and verse talks about love your enemies. But what he's talking to is he's talking to Jews, telling them not to have xenophobia for the goyim. He's not saying actually like love people who are throwing
murdering
you in concentration camps and murdering you. But some people take it as just love everybody by default. Well, love needs to be earned, so does hate. But in his mind, he was like, let's forgive the Nazis, let's forgive the Zionists too. And that's basically what got him banned from Twitter, is he had a Star of David with a swastika in it. I'm like, if you just wrote end all hate on that or something, it would have worked. Or if you had separated the two, because they're like, yeah, we have a white racial supremacist and Jewish racial supremacist, kind of the same ideology, butchering people, except one doesn't exist anymore and the other one is currently ethnically cleansing Palestinians. But you can't just meme that without that long explanation. Maybe put the Bible quote under it or something. He is a narcissistic person, thinks somebody follows everything they do. So maybe he'd been talking about that earlier. But when you just blurt that out on Alex Jones and you don't use Matthew 5 and you don't talk about that, it just comes across like you're insane and saying you love Hitler, which is how it came across. Now that's my spin on it. That's his way out of it. But I'm not in his ear.
Well, what about this? Did you hear about
the Long Army?
Is that the symbol that Kanye or that Ye tweeted out is the Raelian movement symbol?
Yeah, but he didn't know that. He just found he was just looking up Star of David swastika and found it on Google Images and used it. He had no idea.
You see, my mistake was assuming that there was 12D chess going on.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like
Fleetwood Mac with a skull in his ponytail.
It's kind of amazing, like witnessing how people are processing this whole thing. Like some people think every single move is calculated, and then other people think he's just completely lost his mind. I think it's like somewhere in the middle. Like some of
he didn't lose his mind. He's not calculated either. He's just being himself.
Exactly.
It's look, it's memes are great to get your foot in the door if you have some context and some content after that. But it's just meme to another meme to another meme. There is no, it's like there is no meat and potatoes. It's just haha for the lols. And it's like, yeah, haha, funny. You're just going to lose more of your money and never see your kids. I feel bad for him. I don't agree with him being banned. I don't agree with him being banned on Twitter because the rule is inciting violence. He did not incite violence.
But Elon Musk wanted to punch him, Ryan.
Well, that's not what inciting violence means. He didn't say do violence onto Group X. He actually said the opposite. He was saying love your enemies, even Nazis, even Zionists. And in a way, forgiving Nazis is something. I'm not saying to forgive actual Nazis like the ones in Ukraine and the ones in the Third Reich, but they call everyone Nazi now, anyone they don't like. It's like that label.
Everyone except the guys in Ukraine.
Everyone except the ones that actually fit the bill, right? But screaming racism today is like witch burnings in the past. She's a witch. She looks like one. And it's something that, a witch, everybody needs a witch to burn, right? It's so fun to condemn an unquestionable evil. And the unquestionable evil of the day is Nazism. Like everyone agrees they were bad. And so what they can do is just use that on anybody and get them canceled and get them definanced. It's like accusing somebody of rape. Even if you're completely exonerated, you never walk away clean. And I know a lot of people, myself included, they call you a Holocaust denier or a racist or a white separatist, which makes really, really good sense with American Indian, with the Asian wife and all that. But, it doesn't matter how much you fight racism, because if you fight Jewish supremacy, their excuse is always, well, then you hate the Jews, right?
So
if you stand up for Palestinian rights, then that's because you're anti-Semitic. And that canard works because they do run all the media and you don't get to talk.
So is Nick Fuentes actually a white separatist? Because I don't really know that much. I've seen a couple interviews with him.
He says he's just wants a white majority in the U.S. or something, but he's never been a Holocaust denier. He's never done any revisionist work. They dumped that on him, and he's definitely not a national socialist. He's 100% a capitalist.
For some reason, I was surprised he's only 24.
25.
Is he 25? Mm-hmm. Well, the one point that I noticed that I think really backs up that Kanye is not playing 12D chess is that he said that he only 2 weeks ago learned who Benjamin Netanyahu was. And that to me was, because I thought, I don't know, it's Kanye West. He's not an idiot, because obviously he was able to amass all this money and manage it to some degree. Maybe he is an idiot in some areas.
Idiots can do that. I mean, look at Cardi B. Like, look, they built him and they destroyed him. Like, they auto-tune all the songs. Like, you heard him try to sing on Alex Jones. It was cringeworthy. My favorite part was when Fuentes tried to talk about JFK and NUMEC and called it the Operation Apollo. You can tell he watched the film, but he didn't absorb it all. It's like, dude, why don't you just say, hey, there's a great film about it called this? I'm glad he didn't, because I don't want to be associated with that. But
you don't want to roll with yay.
Alex would have censored it anyway. That guy
like
hates
I was going to say, if you said Ryan Dawson on InfoWars, that probably would have gone over
We don't know him. But there's nothing linear about the Ye thing, man. He's a fucking scatterbrain, and it's just so clearly a grifting operation. And Reed, you said before we went live that Milo is out now. What did you?
Milo's out. I saw that. I don't know the details of why, but I just saw. So he and Fuentes were at odds or something, and so they kicked Milo to the curb.
He kind of already accomplished his mission. He got them to the Trump meeting, knowing goddamn well what Nick's optics were. And so he's the new Richard Spencer, fair or not. It's like, Trump had dinner with a white nationalist, it's Nazi, Holocaust denier. Even though two of those three things are wrong, it doesn't matter, because the media is going to use it the way they did Charlottesville, right? He never said, I hate defending Trump. Like, he never said very fine people, referring to Nazis and communists. He was talking about the people debating over the Lee statue.
Right.
And he completely condemned many times the white racists that ended up in Charlottesville for the little look at me shit parade. But it didn't matter. The media just was like, and just kept saying the accusation over and over again. Social media censored any counter narrative. And so everybody thinks Trump is cavorting around with racists. And that's how it is. Like, that's how the media, if they're all identitarians. You can see the uniformity on the Hunter laptop. You can see the uniformity on election fraud, the uniformity on all foreign policy decisions, right? Look at the Ukraine propaganda. I mean, our media said Russia bombed their own pipeline, right? Like that's how bad it is. And they all did it. They all did it. CNN, all of them. A couple people on Fox questioned it, I guess, but like Waters, Tucker, and Ingram. But everyone else was just right on. Don't. Yeah, you think Russia bombed their own pipeline? Russia committed a war crime in Bucha. No, they didn't. And so I want people to see that and see how it's also sanitized on Facebook and Twitter, and how we already know they have relationships with the DHS and the FBI. Now they really know after the dump yesterday showing, or 2 days ago, I'm on a different time zone, but showing that, hey, yeah, the DNC would call and say, censor this person, censor that person. And Yoel Roth decided to censor Hunter's laptop, which was engaging all this white collar crime and quid pro quo with foreign nations and questionable, children and lingerie and stuff. But, it's okay to have pedophile rings on Twitter with 290,000 people. We didn't expunge that. And Elon got rid of all that in 10 days. He closed down all the pedophile stuff, fired 75% of the staff, and Twitter still works the same as it ever did. And its servers are hotter now than they ever were. So like all those people were unnecessary. They're just up there censoring content. The next move needs to be bringing back the band. Some token people have their accounts back, but are like, I don't think McAdams is back. I'm not back. Ritter's not back.
No,
Escobar's
I'm not back.
You're not back. Yeah. So it's that they need to bring back the band, but because there's so many bots, they're having to go through and like approve things, I guess, manually. It's like, okay, just approve them all. And when they fuck up, ban them again. Like, this needs to happen.
So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, and I think there's something to it. So my friend Liam, he made a tweet recently, like a week ago, saying that he thinks that, and Elon kind of confirmed this with a tweet he put out today, but he thought that Elon was taking over Twitter and bringing people back and banning pedophiles and stuff to create a lot more traffic on Twitter, so that it could basically be a test run for Neuralink to kind of test the hive mind mentality of Twitter. And then Elon actually put out a tweet. I'll see if I can find it actually, but he put out a tweet like today or yesterday saying that that's basically what he wants to do. So what do you guys think about that?
Better than the old boss. I mean, you don't think Meta and them are doing that already? I mean, like they're much bigger than Twitter. They're gathering that stuff off Facebook and stuff anyway.
I mean, I think that's been one of the goals of these futurists infusing technology with humans and
you know what I think,
and merging the two. Well, yeah, it can all be traced back to that little cabin in the woods.
Did he not call it on the technocratic dystopian nightmare that's our future?
Right, and I have another tab pulled up because I'm looking for the tweet, and I knew what you were talking about without even like seeing the video.
Yeah, you know who I held up.
Yeah,
I got the action figure. You can get those for Christmas. This is a great stocking stuffer. Then I don't sell these, but I'm just saying, like my buddy makes these, and you can
don't send it through the mail.
You can
send it through the mail.
Well, it's explosive. They're I just Israel Pete Kionis's joke. There's Epstein. He comes with a little rope that he didn't hang himself with.
Oh, it's cute. Yeah. Comes with a Rolodex from Guylaine, and comes from nice mega group stamps that has nude pictures of Sheldon Adelson and Les Wexner on it, wearing Balenciaga clothing, if you can believe it.
Oh, and Adidas shoes.
We got a mega group Balenciaga line that the Gap Limited's putting out only this Christmas and Hanukkah, and it's going to be unbelievable. Wait till you see
it. Is it Adidas WB? Just remember what Adidas stood for, and then add with boys.
Oh God, I don't know, Reed. I think Elon likes the hero worship, and he's a megalomaniac, and he wants people. He's being viewed as like a godlike savior and all that. And I don't play into that or buy into that. But I think overall, man, he does want to move things in that Neuralink direction, and see how far you can push that stuff. I don't know, Pat. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. I'm a student of James Corbett a bit on this one because I listened to and some work and interviews that he's done, and basically it's kind of meet the new boss same as the old. Even though outwardly we can ride the marginal benefits of it as it comes.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is the tweet I was talking about. Liam said a few days ago, Elon Musk took over Twitter so he could have a data center or hive mind for Neuralink, and he wants to reduce censorship so there's more information to pull from. And then he just linked his tweet, which said the intelligence of this hive mind will improve significantly as signal, noise, effective cross-linking of tweets, and speed of tweets all improve. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. Like, it's better than it was. I just think that a lot of people are going to start glorifying Elon Musk when he is somebody I think we should kind of keep tabs on and keep an eye on and kind of monitor to see what's really going on here. But
well, hey, we'll coup who we want to coup. Remember when he tried?
No shit.
Elon is a master. That's why he named his thing Tesla after that kook movie went around glorifying Tesla. Not saying Nikola Tesla wasn't a great man, but they made it seem like Edison stole all his ideas and all this bullshit. I'm not worried about Neuralink any more than I'm looking forward to colonizing Mars. Like, some of the stuff he says is just so far out there. You cannot just hook a computer to your brain. You can't. We're nowhere close to that. And we're not going to terraform another planet. We can barely send robots there. It would not work. Like, it's not just because it's too cold and it doesn't have a magnetic pole, so it's pelted with solar radiation and there's no atmosphere, but the gravity's different. That's a hard one to fix. If you stay without Earth's gravity, you go blind because our muscles and stuff in our eye are designed assuming the gravity we have. There's so many ways to die on Mars or Venus. And it's like, people are used to these movies where it's like, you just build a dome on there and fill it with oxygen. They're like, no, there's so many more problems than that. You can't do that. But people believe him when he says it, and he gets grant money from the government. He's the most prolific welfare queen there's ever been.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, you got Starlink and Tesla and all this stuff, but it's like, but you're getting money from the government. But here's my libertarian caveat to that. You'll look at the NASA's program to the same operations as what Elon's doing. It cost them $44 million to do what he did for $4 million.
Oh yeah.
So I'll just take it as an improvement over the state, even though it's still subsidized by the state.
I don't know if this is a serious comment or not, but I love it either way. No such thing as gravity, total bullshit. You never know when those are real or not.
Yeah, excuse me, centrifugal force, dude.
Have you seen Nancy Pelosi's titties? Come on, all right. You want to talk gravity? Excuse me. He's like, excuse me.
Yeah. So, Mr. Trump, did you know Nick Fuentes before he came to this dinner, or was this the first time you actually met him?
I had no idea who he was. I understand he was a guy on the internet's doing a binga banga boonga bunga from his mom's basement. Okay, I did not know a lot about him. He said some things. He said some nice things about me. He likes America first. And when he got his steak, he got the steak well done and he put ketchup on it. So I did like that about him. I did. I thought that was nice. But other than that, I did not know who he was when Milo walked him into Mar-a-Lago on a leash. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was.
He could come in here on all fours and I wouldn't recognize him.
He could literally.
You wouldn't be able to see him anyway. Isn't Trump like 6'3"?
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's like Lex Luthor. He's built like a former wrestler. He could come in here right now.
Lex Luger, I think you mean. Lex Luthor is a Superman villain.
Wait. Oh wait. Luger's the wrestler?
Luger.
Okay, sorry, I fucked that.
Lex Luthor works too. Those are
both. But no, he could be walked in here on a gimp leash, okay, on all fours, getting pegged by Milo, and I would not recognize him. And he never came to Mar-a-Lago. That's fake news.
I think Milo ate everything at In-N-Out. That dude's gained about 100 pounds.
He's gotten kind of thick, hasn't he, Dawson?
Yeah.
And when I was,
Eric,
I guess he went celibate, so it didn't matter.
I'll pull it up, but Eric, did you see that Truth Social? They're called Truths. The tweets are called Truths, but it was Trump talking about how he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was, and he thought he was Daisy Fuentes or something. Did you see that whole thing? Was that fucking? That
sounds incredible.
I have no idea if it's real. It seems
something
fake.
The King said.
But yeah,
well,
I'll try to
a
find
troubled youth who needed my help, and some black guy, okay, who's having kind of a breakdown, who had said nice things about me before. So I thought I could help him, Pat. I wanted to try and help him.
He arranged the meeting with Kanye in October before he had said anything everywhere. So he just kept it. The thing, look, it's sad about Fuentes because some of his ideas are fine. Putting Americans' interests first, some conservative ideas, close the border, da-da-da-da. But he just shits in the punch bowl with all this race stuff and catering to these spurgs online. It's like, dude, those people aren't your friends. They will stab you in the back whenever it's opportune to do it.
All right, so Eric, I have no idea if this. I think this is probably fake, but some people are telling me it's real.
Also, Dawson, how can we trust a little 23-year-old boy who's never had a nice big pair of boo-boos in his face? You know? I'm a virgin.
You know, he's not gay. He's Catholic, and he takes that no sex before marriage seriously, which is, not something I agree with. But if that's your religion, then, more power to you.
Mr. Trump, I was wondering if you could just read this out loud for us.
Can you make it a little bigger? Like maybe as big as Pelosi's boobs so I can see
Can you make it huge?
Make it huge, Ryan. After Kanye West's latest meltdown, the fake news media continues to ask why I met with him and little Nikki Fuentes. I've already addressed this several times, but I want to make it clear to Americans that I met with Kanye as a former friend and someone concerned about his mental health. The brain, not so good. I hope Ye gets the help he needs. As to Nikki Fuentes, the staff here at Mar-a-Lago, which many have said is the best staff in the world, was given a list to Kanye and included the name Fuentes. When I saw it, I thought I would be having dinner with Daisy Fuentes, quite frankly. And no one knows who Nikki is. And most Americans, if given the opportunity, would gladly eat dinner with Daisy Fuentes.
Who is that?
Even though she apparently married one of the Marx brothers, believe me, it would have been an amazing meal and great evening. Instead, someone who I've never known and don't want to know, quite frankly, showed up. It was all a huge mix-up. Daisy, you're welcome at Mar-a-Lago anytime. Slide into
There's
my
no way that's real. Some people are saying that's real. There's no way.
That's who it is. No, that's fake. Nikki.
Yeah,
that's fake.
Yeah,
but
it's fun, it's fun.
It's like 20% doubt. You're like, I don't know, because
I know that's the problem.
I mean, he did say Little Rocket Man, and he calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. I'm like, come on. Oh, wow. He did say that.
We are living in a timeline where Ye and Fuentes were both on Alex Jones and just kicked Milo off the team. So, for this to be, fake, it's like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of crazy shit going on right now.
You remember when
Ye
you had
with the mask and his little net and a bottle of Yahoo? It's hilarious. But it's like, dude, you're going to he was going to get his namesake back December 16th, so he can make his Yazizzi stuff. You can forget about that now. Where are you going to manufacture it? No one's going to work with you after that.
Right.
He's just getting such bad advice. Get your name back, get some money, because you're going to need that if you're going to run for president. These kind of antics, Ye could take over Alex Jones. He's bankrupt, right? So maybe Ye will just be the new Alex Jones, just be the Ye show. He just go in there. I bet a lot of people would watch that if he just had on guests and stuff, and Kanye just was himself. I mean, do you see him doubt the sacred number for that thing you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube? I was like, oh, damn. Alex was like, yeah, WDF, Klaus Schwab. And Ye's just having none of it. He's like, no, we're going right back to the Jays.
When you make Alex Jones nervous and blush the way Ye did, man, that's when you know the fucking Matrix.
Dude, that part where Alex is like, well, you don't actually like Hitler. You're just saying that for shock value. And then Ye's like, no, I really do like Hitler. And you just see Alex's face just no, stop talking.
Gay frogs.
That's what Jesus said. Yeah.
But you remember, Ryan, when the king had some of the last living, were they Navajo who served in World War II, who were code breakers?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if I fucked that up.
They call themselves Diné, but they're better known as Navajo and also Comanche code breakers.
So, okay, he had like 2 or 3 of the last living of those guys to the White House, and he was like, great history with Native Americans here in America, and we have one in the Senate, and we call her Pocahontas. You remember when he said, I was like, holy fuck, he just did that, man. He really just did that.
You have a real one from New Mexico, but all right. A real one, that's fun. Elizabeth Warren, what was so funny is when she was found out to be 1/12,000th Indian or whatever, she took that as a victory dance. See, 1 drop rule. It's lady, every white person has that much native venom because they haven't been separated that long. You're talking about
the king got her to take a DNA test. Dude played right into his hands. It was unbelievable.
She's like, but I have high cheekbones. They're like, actually, you don't, and your eyes are blue.
We call her
about as white as you can be, right?
Liawata.
Jeremy Kaufman made a post. I should have this one pulled up too, but he took a bunch of articles and changed the word white with Jewish, and he said if you change the word white with Jewish, then mainstream media news sounds exactly like Kanye West.
Yeah,
like, it is true. Like
that's the point. Like you can shit on Whitey all day, but Jews are a protected class. But I feel like you shouldn't be collectivist to anybody. Like you don't say that about whites or Jews. It's retarded. Right. And it's not like Tim Pool said either. It's just a bunch of individuals. Like, no, it's about supremacy. You don't think that if you allow it, people are going to work around an ethnic interest and organize around that principle. And they do. Right. Whites don't do that because it's one of the most taboo things possible after World War II, that you're not going to have any kind of white advocacy, nationalism, whatever. But Jews can get away with it because if you criticize Jewish supremacy, they're going to be like, oh, you're Hitler. And it works. I mean, that is just a conversation ender. You just say, but like, look, it's really fucking clear. Like the reason there's a disproportionate number of that group in media in Hollywood, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's like noticing there's lots of blacks in the NBA, right? It's not because they're just more talented, and it's not because they're genetically like there's some teleology to go take over media. It's because they have covert state sponsorship and a vested interest to control the information flow in the United States so that their state can continue ethnic cleansing and colonization.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there are a lot of people who are Jewish who don't even like they're not even in on it or something. It's just naturally groups are going to work together.
Well,
there's a lot of white people that weren't Nazis. I mean, that's who stopped the Nazis was other whites. Like it's an ideology, not a biology. But that ideology gets favored by a state. So why is it all the Jews in media are also all Zionist? Right? They're all Zionists because that's who's getting promoted and financed into those positions, and then they hire each other.
Yeah, remember the Sony
if they were
email
all North Korean, everybody would notice it right away. Like, oh man, all North Koreans own the media, and we always going to war on Korea's enemies. Like everyone would notice,
right?
But you're not allowed to mention it.
Yeah, well, it was clear as day in the Sony email leaks, man. That the favoritism and to continue to make the Palestinians look like Neanderthals and savages and out of the Stone Age and dehumanize them. It's all obvious and slaps you in the face.
Dude, ABC News won't even say Palestine without scare quotes. Like they don't exist. That isn't think about that. That's an American news network, a major network, ABC, and they write Palestine in scare quotes.
The most normalized racism in America is Zionism against Palestinians. Sure. And also, ironically, Israel is the closest thing to a white supremacist state that exists in the Middle East. I mean, I know not everyone in Israel is white, but a lot of them are white Jews from Europe and America, and they're ethnically cleansing their brown Muslim neighbors. So you think people be all over that, but they're not.
They're trans Semites.
Trans Semites, yeah.
Because they're not Hebrew. They're not from the Middle East. They got blue eyes. They're from Poland. They're from Hungary. They're from.
Did you guys see the Black Israelites marching for Kyrie Irving? I know it happened a little while ago in New York City,
Israelites?
In Brooklyn. Dude, that was. Mike and I had to watch that I just laugh. There's like 1,000 of these dudes marching in New York. If that was any other group, if there was like 10 retard Unite the Right dudes marching with like tiki things in New York City, that'd be all over the news. There was 1,000 of these guys marching to a Kyrie Irving basketball game, and you didn't see it anywhere except for like Twitter. I just couldn't help but laugh. I just thought it was funny. It was funny, Pat. I thought it was kind of funny. I laughed a little bit about it. I don't know a lot about them. Okay, apparently Brother Farrakhan is a big fan. Okay, I don't know a lot about Brother Farrakhan.
I was going to say, even so, my wife is not someone who pays attention to politics at all. But even she noticed how quickly Kanye was thrown under the bus. I mean, yeah.
Right.
I wonder who else notices,
Well, it was a golden opportunity to talk about Zionist influence in the media and banks, but they just derailed that by going on Alex Jones and talking about Hitler love and all this other bullshit. And walking off of Tim Pool. Like, you could have said what I just said, right? You could have said, look, there is a foreign state with a vested interest in controlling our information. Look at how lopsided look at the Iraq War. That was the Office of Special Plans. Look at Libya. Look at Syria. You could have walked through and explained the cabal that led us into these wars and how they're all Zionists. You could have explained every single point, all those trillions of dollars we've lost, all the thousands of lives, the sanctions on Iran, right? Supporting Al Qaeda and Al Nusra Front and all this. They could have had a slam dunk opportunity to talk about all that and say, why is that? Why is it every single network cheerleaded the bullshit about weapons of mass destruction and nobody said otherwise? How did that happen? Because they're Zionists. But they just were like, it's the Jews. And like, dude, it is not the Jews. Okay. You're talking about a couple dozen people. That's it. And they're Zionists, and they're just promoted into those positions. There has a history of Hollywood came out of Jewish organized crime. You can't call it's a subset of a category, right? But they're blaming the larger category for what the subset does, which is the same thing they don't like happening to whites. Like whites get blamed collectively as a race for shit that individuals did or different groups did. It's the same crap. They had so many chances to knock a home run out of the park. Ye's a billionaire, he's a big celebrity. Yeah. So you had the voice. Chappelle was coming, Kyrie's coming, like, and then he picked Milo and Fuentes to be his advisors. And like, well,
wow, what could go wrong
that
there?
Up? You know, like, America first.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like, I mean, so many people were pearl clutching, which was pretty ridiculous, but I was just pissed kind of because of what Ryan's saying. Like, I was like, okay, here's an opportunity where you have a really wealthy dude who's getting taken down because of stuff he's saying, and then he just literally flushed it all down the toilet by saying, I like Hitler. It's just like, dude, no, like, fuck.
Oh. He said on Alex Jones the $2 billion tweet. I can't remember which one it was, but ouch.
It was probably the DEFCON 3-1.
Yeah, that one. That
one. He misspelled DEFCON. You know, that's all. But
was
it's
late.
funny
I was
because,
drunk.
like, when he's on Tim Pool, Luke Ripofsky actually had a good point, which wasn't his because it was already been memed everywhere. He's just repeating it. But he said, yeah, Kanye had his bank canceled. That didn't even happen to Epstein. That's something you should really settle in on and go, yeah, there's this billionaire who is trafficking children and blackmailing all these people in this giant wing that works for the Israeli state or some intelligence agency. We don't know which one. Just Robert Maxwell was it? You can't, you know, like, gee, I guess it's Iran, right? He worked for the Israeli state, and they wouldn't cancel his bank account even after he was dead. It was making transactions, and Darren Endike and his largest stuff going and getting all the files and papers and stuff, whitewash, comb through the Paris property, blah blah blah. Tim Pool's just like, yeah. It just changed the subject. But it's
China,
just
bro,
like, dude, you know, part of the reason Ye acts the way he does is he lost billions of dollars. He got canceled on everything. Like, have some fucking empathy for that. He said it felt like a dog biting his arm. He said they tried to drug me. They tried to jail me. They canceled this. They took this from my kids. I can't see them. They're being raped. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's talk about that and acknowledge how wrong that is first. And then say, well, the reason they're overreacting is just if you changed your language a little bit and didn't collectively blame a ethnic or religious category and stated instead Jewish supremacy, which is way more accurate than just saying Jews. But I know it's just a way of talking. You know, people do that all the time. They say the Kurds. You're like, well, not all Kurds. They say the Russians. Well, not all of them. You fucking know what he meant. But but you also know that people are not going to give you the benefit of the doubt like that. And now it seems like, and they're right, they shouldn't have, given everything you said afterward. It's like, oh, you did mean the Jews, didn't you?
Yeah. The other part of this conversation, I think a lot of people leave out is that most Zionism in America is supported by Christians, just by numbers. There's a lot more Christians in the United States, but like the number of Zionist Christians who supported the Iraq War, a lot of Jews, American Jews, were against the Iraq War because a lot of them, you know, and it's mostly just because a lot of American Jews are liberal, but so they, you know, they were against George W. Bush's war. I'm sure a lot of them supported Obama's wars, but like American Zionist evangelicals are like some of the most dogmatic Zionists that are out there. Like they support every single war for Israel, and they're like almost more pro-Israel than a lot of Jews in America are. It's like, it's a big part of the conversation that a lot of people leave out. And I grew up with it. You know, I grew up as an evangelical Christian, and like Israel was at the forefront of everything. Our support for Israel is one of the most important things so that Jesus can come back eventually. Like this is like one of the cornerstones of the Christian Zionist philosophy.
Those Schofield Christians is what I call them. Give them a lot of money too. If you look at the divestment campaigns, it was in the billions from American churches, billions of dollars. That's more than what the government gives them. But the Schofield Christians they believe in that mythical history, like that's their land, and they believe in the Exodus story and King David and all, like it's historical. It's not. And so they're just like, well, they get to racially inherit land, even though Palestinians have been living there with continuity for thousands of years. And you got all these European Jews that moved there in the 30s and 40s. In the Christian and then evangelical Christian mindset, it's like, no, that's their land. God gave it to them thousands of years ago. And then they disappeared. And now they're coming back. Like the Canaanites and the Philistines and others were also in that land the whole time. For real, not based on mythology, but actual archaeology and history. And why can't you just live with people? Like, why do you have to exclude, like, push them off the land so you can have a Jewish state, meaning a racial state? You could live with them like every other fucking country does. A bunch of ethnicities live together. Not every country, but other than Asia.
Well, we don't have to throw people out of their houses and bulldoze their houses and destroy their property and kill them and
shooting kids for sport.
Shoot them. Yeah, and just take their place.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, we're colonizing New Hampshire, but we don't have to bulldoze any houses. Like, we're just being obnoxiously libertarian, so all the progressives decide to leave.
Those crazy. Are you one of those crazy free staters who like your weed and your guns and your crypto?
Patrick, where do you live?
I live in Wisconsin.
Okay. When are you moving to New Hampshire?
Yeah, I guess yesterday.
Ray, I asked you about Leinenkugel beer and Russ Feingold.
Yeah. I grew up in the city where Liney's is made.
I'm going to butcher
Falls.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't Sam Adams made in Milwaukee? Or that?
It might be made in Milwaukee.
Like it used to be in Virginia, but
it's like.
No, Sam Adams HQ is in Boston. I'm pretty sure.
Is it? I mean,
I think
that's where
it could be made in Milwaukee though, because
I
don't know if it's Bush or Miller that bought all those. Yeah.
Ambev.
Yeah.
So Pat, have you found like your work and what you're doing? Have you? And Reed's talked about this, where you've actually had an impact on some people and changed their mind, or just kind of like their mode of thinking about foreign policy and how America conducts itself around the world.
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, it's hard sitting here because, oftentimes I just feel like I'm talking to the wall, and there's not a whole lot of feedback, but the feedback I have gotten has been pretty good, I think. But of all the topics I've talked about, I definitely get the most pushback on China.
Okay.
But I'm of the right, so I was a conservative growing up, so I feel like I can talk to people on the right. I just need to. I keep trying to exercise my persuasive muscles by trying to put myself in someone else's perspective and speak their language. So
it's a lot easier to talk to the right than it is talking to the wrong.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Well,
so
Ryan's like Rittenhouse. He didn't kill a person; he killed a commie.
Killed two commies.
So they're not people. That's
I like that Rittenhouse quote. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky said it first, and then Rittenhouse shot his shot, and boy, he did a great job.
He disarmed his opponent.
It's
skater.
It's like skate or die.
But now that is a Wisconsin thing.
Raise your hands if you fucked around and found out.
That will go down in Horseman history as one of the greatest all-time fucking rants.
I think it is the greatest moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just pure Dawson.
We're in
fire.
December now. Last month.
But that's
today. Can I read today? This month's quote is Thomas Sowell, so why not?
Sure.
It's hard to imagine a more stupid, more dangerous way of making decisions than but putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong.
Congress.
Mm-hmm. Dude, we had some good rainbow frogs in early December. December 1st was when Ben Gurion died. So
wow.
Yeah. We had Bacon Day. Let's see. What is today? The 5th. It's the 5th in Japan. 21st Amendment prohibiting alcohol gets repealed. Well, that calls for a drink.
So what do you guys think about this? The Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, we were thinking of sending gift cards to everyone in Congress that were just the Happy Holidays tweet. It was just Meghan McCain over the casket, and send them to every member of Congress. What do you think?
I think you should send them USBs with the Biden crime syndicate on it.
There we go. Yeah, we can send some info along with it. Yeah.
Just put a QR code to the Biden crime syndicate and send it to everybody in Congress.
So Ryan, with to everyone in this stream, I'm sure nothing that Elon tweeted out Matt Taibbi tweeted out, was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, with the Twitter files. None of that was surprising to any of us, but was it a little exonerating for you, even though most of us already knew this shit, that people are suddenly like, oh my God, I can't believe they censored this stuff and it's real. And
it's like womp womp, because they're only talking about one of the 3 laptops still, and they're really not getting into it. It just, he's naked and with hookers and stuff, and they're talking about, I guess, Burisma a little bit, and they vaguely just say deals with China without talking about Bohai Harvest or any of that stuff. And they're not talking about
Devin Archer or Chris Hines or the whole. They're just like 10% for the big guy, blah blah blah. Kind of like Epstein. They only talk about Clinton, Prince Andrew, and like surface level stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, there's a film out there that not only goes into Hunter's laptop, but before that, with Biden's brothers, his whole family's corrupt, right? All the white collar crimes, the Ponzi schemes, hit and run, stealing
Native American bonds, like all the bullshit they're involved in. And it's like, where do you put it, Bitchute? There's no way of disseminating this. And I feel like, if Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody could sit down and watch the Biden crime syndicate, her head would explode. You're like, wow. That's like before, Chris Wray's had the laptop since December 2019. I started getting the info in May 2020. I made that movie in October 2020. It's 2022, almost 2023 now. Like, we've had this information forever. It was leaked all over Chinese websites West Taiwan websites. And
in Uyghur camps too.
Still there. Like, you can get the entirety of the contents of that laptop on these Chinese sites. And it's disgusting, dude. You got like 9-year-olds in lingerie and stuff and getting foot jobs and just talking about conning people, and it's like, it's him. It's James Biden, Frank Biden, Joe Biden. They're everybody. I mean, what a disgusting prick, to marry his dead brother's wife and then cheat on her with a hooker who he gets pregnant. Like, if one of the Trump kids did that, can you imagine what the media would do? The Bidens can do that, whatever. I mean, they stole almost $4 million for the cancer fund they set up for Beau Biden. He died of cancer, and they collected $4 million and then didn't spend any of it on cancer research. It just all went back to the DNC coffers. Like, they used their dead child to make money for the Democratic Party.
They hit close to home when Biden's wife ran a stop sign and a truck driver hit her and killed her, and then Joe Biden pretended that the truck driver was drunk. And
well, Joe Biden's brother ran over a father of 2 girls,
killed
made them orphans. They didn't have a mom. He ran over a man and murdered him, and then refused to pay the family, the 2 girls he orphaned, any money.
Yeah.
So Eric, speaking of Marjorie Taylor,
profiteers, it's like, it doesn't end. None of this. It's just like Trump's sinus ball and chain. There's so much information that's not identitarian bullshit that you could really go after Trump for, and they don't, because they can't, because they're involved in the same stuff.
Yeah.
Water Island.
So there's actually a good question since we got Patrick on here. So the deals between Biden and the Chinese are interesting, but at the same time, the Biden administration has been one of the most hawkish administrations on China. So what business deal, what are the repercussions of those business deals? Like, what was most of what was going on there, and what's the fallout of it?
Well, this is actually something I don't really know that much about. I have studied, what the Biden administration's policy has been, but maybe I mean, my best guess would just be that it's just a sign that there's a force driving the vehicle that is not Joe Biden. I don't know. Maybe
that was
Ryan
to you
has
too,
some
Ryan.
idea
Like
about
I
that.
didn't know
Yeah.
what you think.
I don't think Joe Biden's making any decisions. He doesn't even know where he is half the time.
Yeah.
But they were butthurt that China has been aiding Russia, and so they went after the chips. You know, if they really wanted to mess up China, well, really all of Asia, 90-something% of the silicon and things that go into these ships are out of one mine in North Carolina. They could just cut that off and nobody's building anything. But, you know, Xi Jinping won his another term, 10 years. He's basically the dictator of China. They're having huge problems with lockdowns using the COVID pretext, but they've been waiting to do that anyway. You know, and Dr. Fauci saw that and goes, that's what we need over here.
Right.
You say China got so many problems and with real estate and stuff. Like I have a buddy, well, I'll bring him up. I got a guy we can bring on to get all into that. Probably just, you can do it a solo show or Four Horsemen read, but explaining the real estate bubble in China and just all the fuckery that's going on. It really is a paper tiger, but they don't criticize China for the horrible things they actually do. Instead, they exaggerate stuff about Uyghurs and whatever. I'm like, China hates all its poor people. It's not just Uyghurs. Like it's not a genocide either. I mean, that's there is violence toward all those groups, but it's another thing. It's like criticizing Trump about identitarian crap, not the fact that he's meeting with Bob Labooty and the mob and all that. That doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, well, he said Mexicans are rapists. Like, no, that's not what he said. You know, it's like arguing about Obama's, did he wear a flag on his lapel or not, or birth certificate bullshit, stuff like that. Like the dude invaded Libya and made slavery great again. Like that's what you should criticize him for, not
crooked,
the stupid stuff. Yeah, him crooked Hillary.
Him crooked. We came, we saw, he died. And then she queefed.
I told you
she
last time I was in China, people tried to give me their child. Like there's real desperation, especially in Western China. Those people are so fucked. It's so polluted over Beijing. Like the sun is red instead of yellow in the middle of the day because it cuts through that much smog. They have like no environmental laws, no real property rights except for the super rich. That place, and people praise you like they're more capitalist than we are. And I'm like, no, they're not at all. China has more homeless people than Texas has people.
Jesus.
And they have like
they've got like 800 million people that live on less than $5 a day.
And they have these ghost cities, right? Like they have whole cities and they still have homeless.
Yeah,
problems.
commercial and residential property that are empty. You know, it's like because you could buy property and it had an interest rate that people would basically buy their first house and use it to finance the next 7 houses. And there's so much foreign investment in capital that they won't allow the price to come down. But these places are unaffordable to regular Chinese people. But it's like, no, it's kind of like they have homes acting as crypto coins or what do you call those? NFTs. Except it's a house. It's a house with no electricity, no water. No one lives in it. It's just there as like a commodity to trade. And they'll cite, oh, China's GDP is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but a lot of that was government spending on bridges to nowhere or homes for no one. So you have homeless people and housing at the same time. But it's like they cannot allow that property value to drop so that people could actually put stores in there and put people in the apartments, because there would be a huge sell-off from all the investors. Like, oh, they're used to, and it's a lot of rich Chinese too. So they just keep buying more houses. They don't know what to do. And like, they're all empty. Like, but your working class can't afford the rates because they're not really the value you say, because no one can live in them.
And even as bad as things are, it's a massive upgrade from what they were like several decades ago when they were like completely communist. Sure. Yeah, this is crazy.
That's the stat. They're like, look at all the people they brought out of poverty. I'm like, well, they had nowhere to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems
like no one else ever had that many people in poverty, like ever.
it seems to me that like a lot of the China hawks, what they try and do is they threat inflate China, right? And but at the same time, the things they threat inflate about are the same centrally planned policies that were maybe in place that Deng Xiaoping tried to with the reforms tried to get rid of. And it's things like the Belt and Road Initiative and all these foreign investments and things like that. But they don't. But there's like an opposite side of the coin too, where it seems like there's some people that really want to make it seem like the CCP's days are numbered in terms of, you do have all these problems and all these malinvestments and centrally planned programs. But Ryan, do you get the sense that the days of the CCP are numbered, that these problems, because my position on it is just that like, well, yeah, there's all these problems that are really going to seriously inhibit China's ability to be a multipolar power. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the CCP is going to be gone in the next couple of years.
Yeah, just you're acting like, oh, what are they going to vote him out of office? I mean, it doesn't matter how many problems they are. They have all the power.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese media is completely state-run. There is no challenge to CCP. They even did a purge within their own party to make sure it was like super duper loyalists even within it. There is zero opposition. Like the only real opposition is physical. Like if they just quit going to work, they've got factories in China with nets to stop people from jumping off the roof because that's where they live. They don't even live in a house. They sleep in the floor at the factory. Where China exists on slave labor, and slave labor doesn't work because you're going to have to sell to some place that doesn't have slaves. And all they're doing is making dollar store goods. Like they have a horrible reputation. We don't buy it from China. Like that's what you get on Wish or whatever. Nothing works. And slaves have no incentive to really put a lot of effort into making things work. They just flood the market. Knockoff DVDs are still a thing. Like who uses those, right? They steal. There's no copyright law. There's no protections. There's never going to be any innovation. Like, can you imagine if America had 1.5 billion people? We would be colonizing Mars, but we've got all those people and it's all squandered because they're using slave labor. And it is, I don't care if you pay them 1 yuan a day or whatever it is. Like they don't even have homes for a lot of these people. Have to sleep where they work. They work them to the bone. And for what? So they can export a bunch of trinkets to dollar stores. I mean, they're not building like rocket engines and cars and stuff. They're building like, shitty garment industry stuff and little
Aren't they building like
heavy?
Aren't they building like heavy equipment and stuff there, or is that mostly from Japan? And
terrible gift from China.
Japan does what the U.S. does. They go and build shit in China, just like Apple builds all its crap in China. Japanese will build stuff for the Chinese. Like that's why China has a working railroad, is they have the Japanese build it for them.
Do you know, Ryan, who runs the banks? Do they have central banks in China, or is that CCP controlled? Or?
I mean, you know who.
Okay, so yeah, it's like a lot of other countries. Mel Gibson runs the banks.
Well, there was a really interesting.
Ask Kanye.
There was a really interesting thread that Corbett was pulling on that I had him on to talk about maybe a year ago with all this with Mao being Yale educated, and then during the reforms with all the Wall Street money pulling in, kind of like who's the guy who did the Hitler? It was like Hitler and Wall Street, the trilogy. He's that professor from Georgetown, and Anthony Sutton. It was like that kind of thing that happened with the Bolshevik Revolution, that happened with Nazi Germany, also happened with China during the opening.
Yeah,
interesting.
They only survived because they had 4 economic zones that would allow trade and capitalism. One was just north of Hong Kong, and it became the most prosperous city in China. But outside of that, it ain't even third world; it's fourth world. People are fucking poor, like rice paddies, eating bugs and stuff. It is horrifying the way a lot of Chinese, they have rations on water. Like you can't take a shower, but a timer just goes and turns it off. Once you use enough water, the government you can decide how much water you have in your shower. It's the haves. It's not just haves and have-nots. It's have and have nothing.
Right.
That place is screwed. And I'm with Corbett too. You know, I get all the anti-China propaganda from Japan. I sift through it. I was like, it's not propaganda. It's just real. They suck. Like anybody that's aspiring to like communism or the Chinese model is out of their mind. And I know how bad and imperialist and warmongering stuff America is. It's not a or B light switch brain thing. That sucks. That sucks more. That's it.
Right.
It's kind of like every single presidential election. That sucks. That sucks more.
Right. Well, this one that sucks is more fun. The Trump option.
I wish China could be turned around, you know, but it's an unmovable beast, man. It's big. It's the biggest country in population. They have total control. And they right now, man, it is just everywhere. You know, Rona theater is over in most of the world except China. It got worse.
Oh,
it's like shit out of some like comic book or something where all these people dressed in like white hazmat suits, like it's radiation poison, you know, and they're beating the crowd with clubs and stuff. You go outside, you can be thrown in a van. I mean, it's like, yeah.
China, are they number 3 in nuclear weapons in the world? The 3rd largest arsenal behind us and Russia?
After Russia and then us and then them, right?
Yeah,
it's a considerable gap though. Like the US and Russia's number 1, US is 2. I don't know if China. I would assume they'd be
the
number
nukes
3.
made in China.
It's them or Israel, but Israel doesn't, acknowledge all of it.
They don't have nukes, Ryan. Demona, shut up.
Don't have nukes.
Nuclear ambiguity. It's just like Taiwan.
They're the only democracy surrounded by theocracies. Shut up.
Yeah. So Patrick, like you and I had you on my show a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how, like, if you say that the Uyghurs are not being genocided, and then if you say like, the United States sailing warships through the Taiwan Strait is stupid and is aggressing the war close, is escalating tensions that could lead us to a war, then that means you love China and you love the CCP and you love everything about Chinese culture. And it's just like,
definitely.
But that's what they always say. Like, if you say there's no WMDs in Iraq, that doesn't mean Saddam Hussein is like some charitable, gracious leader who really takes care of all of his people and really like protects freedom and liberty and property rights or whatever. I mean, it's the light switch brain thing that Ryan's talking about. Like, as soon as you say, no, that's not true, this is what's actually happening, everyone's like, oh my God, you're a CCP simp. And it's like, now.
Well, the other thing that I've heard too is basically like, oh, well, so you admit, everything up to genocide is happening, but, everything else is true, which like, it's like, no, that's not the point. The point is that I have no idea what's going on there, but it's not genocide. And you have no idea what's going on there, but it's not genocide. I mean, I haven't done like the whole crimes against humanity thing. And it's like, well, the ICJ hasn't either. So I don't know. There's so much to this topic. It's just, that you have the UN going in. Michelle Bachelet, I think she's a South American. She was like the Minister for Human Rights, puts out this study, and none of it is conclusive. It's just like, well, this might be happening there. We don't really know, and that's just the whole point, is that we don't know.
We can't trust after they put Saudi Arabia as the chairman of the Human Rights Board.
Yeah, right. Well, and then people, it's a whole song and dance with what the UN says too, because people will be like, oh, well, we can't trust the UN. And then other people will say, well, whatever. You can't trust the UN. You can't trust anybody. You can't trust America. You can't trust the CCP.
Trust the plan.
You can trust
it's like, what human rights violations are without some authority telling you, right?
Right.
Like, I don't need the State Department to list MEK as a terrorist organization. They commit acts of terrorism, they're a terrorist organization, even if America doesn't acknowledge it. It's like, are you chopping off heads and hands and bombing things? Yeah, okay, you're a terrorist. It's amazing to me that people are like, well, the UN hasn't said that. I'm like, dude, use common sense. That's all you got to do. Now, people confuse the word genocide, like legally what it means, with kind of just in
It
language,
feels
how
bad.
colloquial means is like genocide is total annihilation of a people. Well, that hasn't happened. But cultural genocide, there are different levels of genocide. You can argue they're on that path or not. I don't think so. Same with Armenian genocide. Like, was it genocide or mass murder? Like, well, it's genocide because mass murder is genocide. If you wipe out an ethnic group from a certain area, that is genocide. But people think genocide means like what happened to American Indians, like in some cases 100% dead. Well, yeah, that's also genocide, but that's at the most extreme end of it. Weirdly,
were there five?
Twitter had a
categories?
genocide of people with triple digit IQs, right? I want my right of return. I feel like a Palestinian over here. Like, where's my right of return? You got all these double digiters out there tweeting back and forth nonsense. And it's like, man, how cool would this be if an adult was allowed in the room? But
They bulldozed your account.
They did. They smallpoxed me. They gave me the blankets. My account just went under. They took all the potatoes away.
Fucking smallpox them, Reed.
They
monkeypoxed
Twitter.
They
what happened to that, by the way, right? Remember monkeypox?
Well, they took all the monkeypox and injected it up Fauci's ass, and it's gone. Okay,
it's
until
still there.
To fart it out. He's going to go to a wet market and fart it out into bat soup and release it into the atmosphere.
Monkeypox went away as fast as Stop Asian Hate, right?
Yeah.
They had this big thing of Stop Asian Hate from like one incident of some white guy that went around shot happy ending workers or whatever, and then they couldn't find anything else. But there's video of a different ethnic group just punching Asians out cold and stuff, but that didn't fit in the narrative. And with monkeypox, it was like, well, it's a lot of homosexuals getting monkeypox, so that's not their narrative. Like, if it was being spread by straight white guys, we would never hear the end of it. But the Stop Asian Hate and the monkeypox disappeared because privileged classes were, disproportionately involved in it. So like, you don't really care about Asians because they are being targeted and knocked out and stuff. It's just not by whites. They didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to bash Whitey. And that's all that was. It was in like Epic Games, went all over. It was in the movie Venom. They had a clip in there about Stop Asian Hate. It's like, it looks so awkward because it's like that thing faded away in 2 weeks. But it was like, boom. It was all over Twitter, all over TikTok, all that. It's like, yeah, everyone can get behind that. I obviously don't hate Asians, right? No, you shouldn't hate anybody except for redheads. But we're talking about people, no people.
Yeah, or commies, right? Redheads are commies.
Well, I mean, I already just said we're only talking about human beings. I mean, I guess redhead is sort of like a hominid creature. It is a mutation of like something that it's got, legs and stuff, but like
it was got David Brady in the chat.
Like,
the doesn't have a soul.
Yeah, he doesn't have a soul.
Lacking the soul.
They have reverse soul, actually. It's less than no soul.
And they don't have Thomas Sowell.
They don't. Thomas Sowell is like, he's got more soul than James Brown. I hope
he's
that's
a
not
soul man. Capitalism.
Yeah, dude. Can you do Thomas Sowell? Can you do it?
I got to work on it, man. I've only started watching some of his stuff.
Dude.
I'll work on a Thomas Sowell.
I miss Liberty Pen. Like, that wasn't that long ago. Like, I grew up with that kind of stuff and whatever about William F. Buckley, whatever. But you could have like long form conversations about politics and get guests on there like Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's even like the Hunter story. It's like 5 minutes on Tucker and on to the next thing. There is no in-depth discussion about any of this stuff. And it's because Generation Adderall wouldn't watch it.
Generation.
That's
no, really. I mean, these ADHD kids should be like, where's the lasers in the eagle? If it's not an MTV music video, I mean, they can't sit through it. You send them stuff like, watch this talk by Thomas Sowell, and like, it's too long.
Yeah.
We got a request. Can Trump get my Chicago conventions to invite Julian Hillard so that as a fan of him, I can meet this child star in their conventions next year? Do whatever you want with that.
Yeah. Hey, Ronwell, just tweet at me, man. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't know about these child stars. Okay. I don't know what's going on here, but just tweet that at me and we'll figure something out.
All right.
Infowars.com.
We do have one other super chat here. This is from what we were talking about earlier, but Con Conrail says, fun fact, Zionism originated from a form of Christianity in Europe.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
Zionism comes from Judaism. People think Theodore Herschel and all, they have a weird origin, but Zionism is as old as Judaism. There's always been a faction that believe they're God's chosen people, divided the world into Jew and Gentile. They did that. Nature didn't do that. They did that to themselves. It's a self-alienating ideology to put your group on a pedestal and, you know, have different laws for yourself versus outsiders. The good thing, though, is like people today, they don't follow the Torah. Christians don't follow the Bible. Muslims don't follow the Quran. That's a good thing. Like if you were going to really follow the Bible, we should have a monarchy. We should have divine right of kings. People could get stoned to death. You know, animal sacrifices, all kinds of crazy shit you'd go to jail for if you acted like that now. But that's
the stonings
the
stonings might not be the worst idea in the world, to be honest. You know, like maybe we should bring some of those back for some punishments. What do you think, Eric?
Burning witches, you know.
Yeah, I mean, right now in InfoWars, we got Roger Stone selling his stones at stonings.com. You can get them for $10.99 right now. They're signed by Roger Stone, and then you can use them to stone your favorite witch if you want to do that.
Well, nowadays, half of California is stoned all the time.
They're stoned all the time. Hey, Pat, have you seen any of the stuff about DeSantis during his time at Gitmo as a JAG?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things Ye brought up was how they're using somebody to that it's the DeSantis campaign that's trying to sabotage Trump. Or do you remember that part of the whole interview?
Yeah.
That piqued up my interest.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I missed that part. Was that on Emmerich?
Yeah.
Remembers better than I do.
Yeah, no, he was saying, I mean, it was just a comment that I remember, but he said, I love Trump. You know, I went to talk to Trump because I love him. You have people coming after Trump, like DeSantis is being set up to destroy Trump or something along.
Yeah, by the
lines.
establishment. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, if you look at who's lining up behind DeSantis, seems to be, you know, I've said for a long time, I think DeSantis is more preferable to the establishment than Trump, because even though Trump 9 times out of 10 would do whatever the hell they asked him to, there was that one time where he would be like, kind of, I don't know about this. And he'd have like,
he was like, BB, maybe we should stop the settlements. Ooh, he didn't like that. He didn't like that. Yeah. That's the one time out of 10 where he was like,
exactly.
You know,
the first foreign leader to congratulate Joe Biden was Bibi.
Yeah. Dude,
and I like the nickname Bibi better than Netin, because Bibi in Arabic means woman of the house.
Well, he's trans. Bibi's trans, folks. I got the documents.
He's a trans Semite.
Yeah, but no, yeah, that's true. He crossed the king when he congratulated Brandon. He said he's an asshole. When he gave the interview afterwards, he said, "Fuck him. Brandon. I gave him everything. Daddy Adelson gave me hundreds of millions of dollars, and I gave Israel everything." Okay.
Well, it's the frog and the scorpion.
Right.
Why'd you sting me?
The gay frog.
Yeah, the gay frog and the gay scorpion. Right.
So Patrick, what do you think? Did you see? I forget who it was. It was from Empire Files, though. What's Abby Martin's husband?
Ice Left podcast.
What's Abby Martin's husband's name? I keep forgetting his name all the time.
Mike Preisner.
Mike Preisner. He was interviewing the Gitmo detainee who. So far, this is only eyewitness account, right? There hasn't been any further corroboration that this is actually true. It's just eyewitness so far but basically there's people saying that DeSantis, it's known he was at Gitmo, but people are saying that he was actually overseeing torture in Gitmo and was actually kind of like telling people to torture people harder, and he was laughing at them. So far, it's just eyewitness accounts, so it's worth whatever it's worth, but it is interesting. But what do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's like there isn't enough there to really convict him of anything. I mean, if this were a regular court, I mean, I think that the test, or at least what the eyewitness said, could be corroborated by certain things. Like, it's not disputed that Ron DeSantis was at Guantanamo Bay. It's not disputed the time that he was there. And as far as I know, it's not disputed that the witness was there at the same time, because he was there from, 2004 until 2016 or something like that. So I think what you would have to do is to get more corroborating witnesses. I'm sure there's documentation that Ron DeSantis was there. I'm sure, I mean, there's probably surveillance footage from Guantanamo Bay. And maybe it's deleted at this time, or I don't know what the data retention policy is.
The cameras didn't work.
I'm sure
they Epsteined them.
But the story, I mean, the story essentially is, or the charge, the allegations are that Ron DeSantis, he was a JAG officer at the time, and that I think he had gone to Fallujah first, but they go into a bit of his background, and that he basically had like pencil pushing jobs, and then all of a sudden someone entrusted him with either going to Fallujah, I think it was Fallujah first, and there he demonstrated the fact that he was a yes man, according to at least one of the people that Mike Preisner interviewed, that officially the role of a JAG officer is to ensure that the U.S. or military is in compliance with human rights. However, de facto, what they actually do is to make sure that the U.S. military doesn't get in trouble for war crimes. Right. So they oversee all the situation reports and things like that, and say, here's how you could phrase this so that you don't end up in Geneva. Right. So basically, that he was so good at what he did at green lighting and greasing the skids for whatever his commander wanted him to do, that he got awarded with the Guantanamo Bay assignment, and that he went there under the guise of protecting the detainees' human rights. So he would go and tell the detainees that he was there to make sure that their rights were being respected. And so you need to tell me what the worst infringements of your rights are and what is hardest for you to deal with. Because at the time there was a hunger strike going on, and it was a pretty unified, serious hunger strike going on among the detainees. And so the guy that Mike Preisner was interviewing said that he felt like, and a lot of the detainees felt like, they could trust Ron DeSantis, and basically they told him that it was sleep deprivation that was the hardest thing to deal with. And so all of a sudden, after they all confided in him, the jailers instituted policies that made it much harder for them to sleep, like playing really loud music in the night, throughout the night, and things like that. One thing that I did find interesting in the interview is that Mansour, I think his name was, Mike led him with his questioning a little bit. It wasn't him that first mentioned the name DeSantis. It was Mike that first mentioned the name DeSantis, which is, just as an attorney, it's something that I think about.
Leading the
witness, and I think a jury would definitely key into that.
Part of me, Pat, that would like to think that one of the brothers yacked up in shore all over DeSantis's uniform.
Yeah, yeah, part of me too. Or they threw feces at him.
It'd be a fun gag at a campaign event when he does run, show up with a bunch of Ensure bottles and spit it at him.
Oh, jeez.
Doesn't it suck that this is our choices again?
Yes, it does.
Because why, Ryan?
If we don't have a break in the media, we're always going to get clowns. You can't.
We're so far in our own end zone.
Yeah, I know. We have the Rand Pauls, the Masseys, the Gabbers.
That's one of my favorite Dawsonisms.
Yeah. Dude, you got to hear the Texas speech, because I went down a whole list of we're so far in our own end zone things. But, yeah.
MTG is looking incredible. We're so far in our own end zone.
Yeah, Herschel Walker is like, that's today, right?
Literally in our end zone, Ryan.
Like, this is how bad is it? Well, about half the country is like biting tooth and nail, hoping Herschel Walker becomes the senator just to save us.
Walker Fetterman 2024 bipartisan end zone shit.
Why not? It's just like
fracking and abortions.
It's that day I woke up to the news that they'd spent $30 million on crack pipe distribution, free crack pipes.
That was an initiative by Hunter.
I thought, man, Babylon B is going to have a hard time topping.
Yeah, they could.
Reality. Like,
they don't even have to top it. They could just like copy and paste it right over to the Babylon B, and it's already satire.
Just like this actually happened. Like, we give up on satire. This is here.
There you go.
Kamala Harris, just any speech she's ever given,
yeah.
You can't, in the most sardonic way, ever match the significance of the passions of time, or Ukraine is a big country, or any of the Kamala-isms. She makes George Bush seem like an intellectual giant.
Yeah, dude, I remember like when George W. Bush was the dumbest thing in politics, and then after him it was Sarah Palin, and then after him, then after her it was Trump, and then after him it was Biden. And once we got to Biden, I was like, we can't go any lower. Like this is the bottom.
Oh no!
And then we had
that
Fetterman.
Yeah, that Jean-Pierre, what's her face, the fucking press secretary. I thought that's got to be the bottom. She's got to be the bottom. But then there's Fetterman.
Well, Dr. Levine, I might add Dr. Frankenstein. I mean, Dr. Levine. Yeah, Dr. Frankenstein. And
She's
talking about
bad,
puberty
though.
blockers.
She's pretty bad, but man.
So Senator Paul.
Hello, good night, everyone. Just
Senator Paul, are you thinking about throwing your hat in the ring for the presidential race now that this could be a wider primary field?
Well, it's certainly something I'm thinking about. I mean, when I'm doing my lawn care and my trimmings sometimes violate the NAP and I aggress my neighbor with the bark mulch, I say maybe I should be president. But obviously, I'm very happy to be here, and I'd rather be down in Guatemala giving free cataract surgery to some of the believers down there. I'd like to see Rand run. It'd be good to get him in there, but
I got a scenario though. Imagine January, the Republicans get in. And then they bring in, like Rand Paul said, we're going to get answers about Fauci's royalties and so on. If they get any kind of consequence for Fauci, imagine putting that little goblin in jail. You could have a president. You could have a President Paul. If he gets Fauci, he wins. Because DeSantis' big thing is he wasn't as bad on the virus, right? His other thing is he's kind of gone against big tech. Trump didn't do that until he got personally banned, right? But Ron Paul can be like, you tax Disney, okay, and you only shut down in the beginning. Well, Fauci's in prison, bitch. It would never end. I mean, he would just have to. Someone would have to like put those Thug Life glasses on him everywhere, every video.
Fauci's in jail. And they, DeSantis didn't talk about the puberty blockers down at the Magic Kingdom. They're handing them out there like Pez candy, Pat, and I have a problem with that.
Yeah, dude, I'd love to see Rand Paul I'd love to see the Phoenix with Rand Paul, rise from the ashes again.
Let's war game it a little. You're going to have Haley up there, who's neocon PNAC trash. You're going to have Pompeo.
Oh, the Icky Nicky?
Yeah. You're going to have
the one
Pompeo.
that is Bukake in the Knesset?
That's dark. That's dark. You're going to have Pompeo.
You haven't seen my Icky thing?
I haven't. Who's neocon trash?
You need to see the BitChute only Dawson videos.
Oh, my
God.
That'll be my.
I'm not sure I want to watch that one.
That'll be my last big drinking night before I go on the sober train for 6 months on January 1st.
Just call it the Icky Nicky.
I'm doing that again.
I quickly run to BitChute over here.
I want to see that. We have a Christmas version coming out.
Hey, we got a request here, Eric.
Who's that? Dry Owl? Dry Owl says, Eric in a drum. Oh, I'm reading the teleprompter like Brandon. Now say you didn't shower with your daughter. End sentence. Pause. New sentence. Ukraine, Hunter Biden, here's your charisma. Okay, Dry Owl, how about this? You ready for it? Listen, you ready? Mexico will pay for the wall, and the deep state Hillary's going to prison. Trust the plan. Infowars.com. Okay. Don't be afraid to Venmo me directly. Senator Jackman 86. Any tips, any impersonation requests, hit me up on Venmo. I do take requests, and I'm a capitalist, guys. I like money. Okay, money's great. Money's good. It's how I paid for my love with Stormy Daniels. I gave her the best 28 seconds of her life, Pat, believe me.
Is Kristi Noem thinking of running for president or vice president?
Too. Yeah.
For president, you think?
Base potato lady, as my cousin calls her. Base potato mommy. Well, that's the thing I wanted to ask you guys too, Pat. I don't know if you saw this. Pasta, who you had on recently, Reed, and Mike and I have had him on, Pasta Jardulo of the Convo Couch and AM Wake Up. He's doing a panel with Clint from Liberty Lockdown, Dave Smith, and Jimmy Dore. And he's kind of looking to create some synergy between liberty-minded people and then, based progressives who are truly anti-imperialism and good on civil liberties. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's awesome. I mean, I think we need more of that synergy And I know there's some people that disagree with that, but I think that of all of the people in the anti-war crowd out there, base progressives are, I mean, frankly, they're better than people on the right. Now, on other policies, they might not be better or they might be worse. But I mean, I'm looking at the anti-war movement, and it's people on the left that are better. They're just better.
You should clarify that there's like 100 of them.
Yeah,
Like,
there's not a lot of them,
yeah.
but they are. Just in my
Well, yeah,
opinion.
Jimmy's good. Jimmy Dore is good. I don't know if Pasta considers himself on the left, but he's really good on the issue. He's big on election integrity, which he gets a lot of flack from the left about, but he's very consistent about that. And then obviously we mentioned Mike Preisner, Empire Files, Abby and Robbie Martin. They're leftists, but they're really good. They're truly anti-imperialist, anti-war. So
I think the distinguishing factor, one of them for me, is just that they know their shit a lot better, I find. But
well, what I find is like actually like why I like Ryan so much is he's one of the right-wing guys who really, really hates like John McCain and those types of people. Like so many of the right-wing anti-war people, they don't really hate the neocons that much. A lot of them don't. Where like there's the left wingers, like the good ones, they really hate the neocons. You know,
they've
like it's
done
kind
their
of
homework.
rare.
They don't.
Yeah.
A lot of the people on the right don't know about PNAC. Like you said, Pat. They don't really know. They haven't looked too deeply.
They've
into
been
it.
subverted by QAnon and all this retarded stuff. Like
God.
Jimmy Dore, I'm glad he's anti-war and he's anti-woke, and we have a lot of overlap. But man, when it comes to economics, he's fucking lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's where him and Dave Smith were disagreeing.
Yeah, Dave's good on economics, or better.
But I mean, I like to see where these conversations can go because we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of it. We get into our echo chambers. We just talk to each other. We don't branch out enough. So I think there's a lot of overlap, and you're looking at the largest. What?
I don't want an echo chamber. I was forced into one by getting banned on everything.
Oh, yeah. No,
I was talking to everybody.
No, believe me, I know, dude. You
Yeah,
talk to anybody. Yeah, you are a free speed absolutist.
I'll talk to
dude.
David
I'm not
Duke.
talking
I don't give a
about you.
shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
mean,
saying
he's anti-war too. But he's one of those guys. It's like it doesn't matter if you're like good on every position. If you're racist or even an ex-racist, you're done. And that does need to change. Like if someone used to have some abhorrent opinion about race, whatever, and they change their mind, let them change their mind. But it's the scarlet letter. It's the unforgivable sin. And what happens is they're like, well, you know, if they can't be accepted,
unless you're Ukrainian or Richard Spencer, then you're good.
Yeah, well, he was always a leftist.
You're like Bandera.
You know, any of these people that like maybe they had that opinion in the youth or whatever, and then they don't. But it's like it doesn't matter. You used to be that, so you're that for the rest of your life. So it causes them to just double down on it because then you know at least they'll be accepted by that crowd or whatever. There needs to be a path to forgiveness for that. Like if Kanye had said that, like, look. Even you know the N-word, the other N-word, Nazi, right? Even Zionists. Like I know people who are total neocons who aren't at all anymore. Read right? Like there are people who are completely completely sold on that, are totally communists, and now they're a normal person. And there are also people who used to be racist and now aren't. But no, that follows them around forever. And the thing is, like, if these racists were allowed on free speech platforms and had some dialogue, that would cure it for most of them. They have dumb ideas because they haven't heard better ideas. And when you force them into an echo chamber, it ends up like Cozy, right? Like no one's allowed to give them a counter narrative. They'll all dogpile that person because they live in their little land. But the moment they step out of the echo chamber, they got people throwing burgers at them.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I agree 100. Like, I like to talk to people on the left, but I think it's got to go both ways. Like, it's it's weird. Like, people tend to have an aversion to one or the other. Like, it's like, oh, you can talk to these people, but you can't talk to these people. You can talk to these people, but you can't talk to those people. And it sucks. Like, I mean,
people get mad at me for arguing with racists. I'm like, yeah, but I had so many emails when I went on Heel Turn. I had like a 3-hour debate with 6 people of like young men that I saved from falling into that. Like, that's going to ruin your life. You're going to get kicked out of school. You're going to be unhireable. You're going to get kicked off PayPal. But you know, the ADL and all my enemies would be like, well, you talked to Dr. Duke or you talked to Mike Enoch or whoever. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't agree with them on any of that, you know. But just that you're not allowed to talk to them. I'm like, well, then how, you know, I'm also talking to their audience. Their whole audience is hearing my anti-racist argument too. And it works. It's like I talk to penitards, like these 9/11 deniers that would say there were no planes or whatever. I hate doing it. It is a headache for me, trust me. But in doing so, it switched a lot of people. Like you got to have dialogue with the people you disagree with.
Yeah.
And they don't allow, there's just some things like, no, you're platforming that person. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're saying their idea. I'm usually on their show anyway.
Well, they're assuming you co-sign everything that they believe. And we run into this, Reed, just because you talk to somebody or you've met someone or had a picture with somebody, you automatically believe everything that person believes and they've ever said in their life. You believe.
I did that with Nick Fuentes. I took that picture with him because I had Patriot J, who's a black guy who was with me. So I was like, dude, we've got to take a picture of the two of us with Nick Fuentes. Like, this will just break people's brains. And so I did. And then, of course, it did break.
Did he grab your butt? No, just kidding.
Well, like when I posted my picture with Marjorie Taylor Greene at the Capitol, and I said we did our little mini J6 here with Primetime 99 here at the Capitol, I had one of my old teachers comment on it, basically saying you should have spit on her. You know what I mean? That kind of shit.
Yeah.
So I posed for a picture with MTG, and you know I believe everything she does. It's just people are. It's tough, man, to break through, but it's important. The point I'm trying to drive home here is I like to see, like you said, Pat, what they're going to be doing. Libertarian Party is the third largest national party in the United States. They're going to get a lot of exposure in the next election. They're going to get on some big platforms. And I think it'll be great to see Jimmy Dore kind of people coalesce around this issue of anti-imperialism and anti-war and find common ground and put that alternative forward to the people. And media systems too, Ryan, because that helps propel more independent media systems like you're always talking about, where we can reach more
they're
people.
insulated, you know. Even like I feel like Jimmy Dore, if the format was different and you could just sit down with him and correct him on economics, he's intelligent enough to go, okay, like, you changed my mind, that's that. Same thing with Tim Pool. Like, if I could sit down and tell him how retarded he is on the American Civil War, right, I think he's not like so egotistical that he just can't be wrong. He'd be like, all right, I didn't know any of that, and now you changed my mind, right? But the kind of people that really need to talk to these kind of people have no access to them. They're surrounded, you know, they got a little posse
They're in a
on
bubble.
their show. They're all
bubble.
liberals, you know, or whatever. They're all whatever the brand is, and they don't let anyone inside. Same thing with Joe Rogan. Like, Jamie makes his guests. Jamie's a hardcore liberal. All the guests are liberal. He's had like 4 conservatives ever. Because they don't want him talking to those people. But every time he does, like when he had, I guess, Jordan Peterson's conservative, whatever, it was like his best show in his own mind.
He had Eye Patch McCain on.
Yeah, you know what? One of the
you know, Abby Martin got on, and like the first person ever to talk about Palestine and Joe Rogan, even though she just learned about it, was on Joe Rogan's show with Abby Martin. I'm like, well, I mean, I'd love to see Gordy and Livy or Grant Smith or someone like that on. Knows it way better than she does, but you know, I'll take it as a W. But it's because she's on the left, she was allowed to talk to Rogan. The anti-war left can talk, but he's not going to have Grant Smith on his show. But can you imagine? Or like Scott Horton or me, like talking to Rogan about these wars? We'll never be on Tim Pool, Rogan, or any of that. So the left needs to be accepting of the right. I think the right's willing to talk to them.
That's what
it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought, and I think you'll agree with this, Patrick, and I think all you guys will agree with this, even though Ryan doesn't have Twitter, so he was seeing it secondhand. But when we tweeted out the Happy Holidays tweet, that brought really based anti-war people out from both sides. Like, it was really obvious, like, who was okay with that and who was like, this went too far. And it's kind of interesting to see but you had like, actually one of the Tim Pool people, Cassandra McDonald, I don't really know too much about her, but she was like, this is awesome. Fuck this guy. He's one of the worst people who's ever lived. And then you had like Caitlin Johnstone, and then you had Sticks and Hammer.
John McCain's still dead anniversary, right?
Yeah.
I even made
August
a t-shirt.
25th.
The thing is, I can't post them. I used to put the McCain stuff on when I had Twitters, I had like 12 of them erased in a row. I just gave up on it. But like that idea could have been out there years ago.
Yeah.
But it's like the influencers that come up with these things aren't allowed to talk. I'm glad you're doing it though. Like, I'm like, well, someone else do it then. You know, I can't do it. Someone else do it. It got national news.
Yeah. Well, see, if I had tweeted that from my personal account when I had it, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. But because it was from a libertarian official account, it fucking blew up and ended up all over the news. But it was an amazing moment.
You mean you gave it to the person that runs that account?
Right. Yeah.
You gave it to Q.
Had them do
gave it to Q.
I tried to start the Libertarian Party in North Carolina. It lasted a day. And that was that.
Is there no Twitter for them? Do they have one, or you just made?
They got one now. After I had that name, they went and grabbed it. But it was like I had that name for a day, and they banned my account, and I'd only posted like 2 things.
Yeah.
One of them were raw documents on 9/11. That probably
that didn't help things.
Good excuse to put the kibosh to it.
But I'm like, these are our government's own papers. Just no one looks at the press doesn't report on it. Same with JFK. Like our own government's conclusion is that multiple shooters were involved in Dealey Plaza. That is the Congress's own official record. James Corbett and I talked about that, and Bill Still and I have talked about that. Piper and I've talked about that. People don't know that. They're like, it's the Oliver Stone film or whatever. Like, oh, the grassy knoll. Like, yes, there was a shooter in the grassy knoll. That's got acoustic evidence for that. Our own government determined that. And people are like, oh, official story. Like, no, the official story is multiple shooters. Do you not even look at it? And September 11th, our JAS report flat out shows the financing of hijackers and state sponsorship and stuff. It doesn't matter. The press is uninterested in that. And the alternative news is afraid to touch it, basically because Alex Jones made it, covered it in so much retard sauce that no one wants to be associated with 9/11 truth because it's a bunch of, Richard Gage types. And so no one wants to lay down with the retards on that. It's kind of like the QAnon. They're very against election fraud and stuff, but you get people like Jack Posobiec or whatever saying, there was a big shootout at a server farm in Germany. No, there wasn't. There was not. Like, you're exaggerating. They just did this. They tried to build a bridge between Epstein and Balenciaga through Rachel Chandler. And I'm like, she doesn't work there. Like, yeah, she was involved in Epstein, and there is a bridge to Balenciaga, but that isn't the one. They get everybody barking up the wrong tree, and it ruins it for everyone else. But again, this is because of the people running social media. They decide who's on, who's off, and whose volume's up and whose volume is down. Free speech should be an inalienable right, as it's written in the Bill of Rights. Everyone should be allowed on social media who's not breaking the law. And you shouldn't have a dial turning things up or down. It should just be even. I don't think we'll ever have that, though.
So, Ryan, I think I sent it to you. Did you see so obviously Elon had Matt Taibbi tweet all the stuff out. Did you see the other person that he leaked the information to?
Was it Barry Weiss?
Barry Weiss.
Oh, man. I need to replay the woodshed. Can I give you the 20-minute one of that 7-hour one, and you can play it whenever?
Yeah, just send it to me.
That girl, I think she has this longest or second longest woodshed. I'm going to have to start on the cozy people today since they banned me. I told them, y'all haven't seen me be nasty yet. You don't know what woodshed
Ryan's
is.
like, I'm being nice.
I was being nice.
I'm being nice.
I defended Ye and Fuentes. Have been very nuanced when they did the right thing. I don't think they should be banned. I don't think he incited violence. I don't think either one of them should be banned. I believe in free speech. I think it's completely unfair what they've done to Fuentes, kicking him off YouTube, kicking him off Twitter, kicking him off PayPal and everything else.
Airplanes.
That was because of a stunt he did. But they shouldn't be doing that to anybody who isn't breaking the law. And it's like, you're just going to make him quadruple down on it. Like, he's got this group of losers surrounding him. And he doesn't have an ability to get out of that because he's shunned from everything else. And if you just given him a path, just give him a Twitter right now, he'll behave because he doesn't want to lose that. Financially, I know he's lost. I mean, the dude was making $4,000 a stream.
$4,000, yeah.
When he had a YouTube. Now, even with Kanye, he'll get maybe 20,000 live, usually around 5 or 6. Like, fuck, we used to get 15. I only had like 80,000 followers. But we could get 15K live because it was on YouTube, right? You get rid of YouTube, fucking no one's watching Rumble or Odysee. Not really.
No, yeah.
Like, they're there. They're bigger than they used to be. But like the standard person who wants to watch a video on their phone, just go to YouTube app and watches YouTube. They're addicted to it. They have a monopoly. We should have antitrust laws. We should break them up or force them to obey the Constitution. Like, you cannot, if these are your rules and this is your contract, and you define hate speech by inciting violence towards these different groups, which it should just say toward anybody, and they don't incite violence toward any of these groups, then you cannot ban them for hate speech. But they do. Hate speech is just an all-encompassing excuse to get rid of any content they disapprove of. Oh, you're conservative? Gone. You're libertarian? Gone. Oh, you're talking about the Israeli state? You're out of here. Oh, you're not pro-Ukraine enough? You're out of here. You don't.
Yeah, you made a good point
on COVID. You're
back
out
when you made a good point back when you got banned that it's not about Section 230. It's about breach of contract because you sign a term of agreement and then they ban you for arbitrary shit. Sometimes, sometimes they don't even tell you why they ban you.
Section 230 is one of these things that went around with the Q charts and stuff too. Like, Section 230 protects YouTube from being sued for the stuff you say. Like, they're not liable for what all their users say, right?
Right.
So it's good for them to have Section 230. Otherwise, if they didn't, they'd ban everybody, because it's like, well, if I'm not immune to what other people are saying, if I'm going to pay the price for defamation and stuff that other people say, then none of these people get to talk. They have 230 so that they can allow people to talk. The problem is the contract. They say, here's our terms of service, A, B, C, D, and one of them is hate speech, which is defined by advocating violence towards, and they list a bunch of different minority groups, doesn't include whites. Well, no one was doing that. No one's saying kill the such and suches or anything like that. But if you point out that, the Israeli state bulldozes down homes, hate speech. You have Ahmed Tamimi on, hate speech. I had a video called Palestinians Are People Too. Hate speech, right? You have a video criticizing Maxwell and Epstein for raping kids. Oh, you're bullying.
Eric and I got a video removed on Kyle Matovic's show for talking about Epstein. It was removed for bullying.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
They're like, well, we'll flag you for bullying. And because YouTube's also run by a bunch of pedophiles, they get butthurt when you go after pedophile rings. Like Twitter, pre-Elon, you couldn't say the word groomer. Think about that. And then lo and behold, you had hundreds of thousands of people sharing underage porn in these giant DM rings on Twitter. They discovered it and got rid of it. There were journalists that were following that and like screaming into the wind. And finally, Elon's like, who are the ones we have to go after? They're like, here's all the big ones, cancel them. And he did. But I'm like, cancel them, prosecute them.
Yeah,
that's illegal. I mean, I'm glad they're off Twitter, but they'll just move over to whatever, or they'll build a new one. They'll just go over to Meta and do it. They don't care about pedophiles on Facebook. We need to protect our children from the hormone blockers and these weirdos shaking their nuts at their face at transgender story time, which is just like pushing an agenda. It has nothing to do with reading books. It's gotten to the point where parents are like, is my kid safe at school? Or are you going to go in? They saw some of the crap they're being fed when the Rona Theater was going around. They all had to do Zoom. And it's just CRT and all this crap and guilt. I mean, you send a kid to college, they come back dumber than they were before they left, and a nose ring and purple hair, and they're just totally indoctrinated. And it's gotten like that on universities. And it's that adage, the most intolerant wins, right? You need to be intolerant. You need to be intolerant of shit that just shouldn't be, right? Don't be, I'm going to be open-minded. Like, no, kids can't consent. So you cannot change their sex or chop off their penis or anything. You cannot do that to children. You cannot sexually exploit children, and you cannot protect the people who are doing that to kids. But they do. I mean, this is how deep in our own end zone we are. We have to argue about
it's an argument.
Prosecuting pedophiles.
Shouldn't even be an argument.
You know who ought to be castrated and put on hormone blockers? Pedophiles.
Yeah. Patrick, have you guys dealt much with censorship over the Libertarian Institute? Like, what's been the hot topics that you guys it hasn't, or have you like mostly flown under the radar? Or
yeah, for the most part. I mean, we don't. I mean, at the Institute, we don't do a whole bunch of like cultural commentary or really touch that topic specifically so much. I know that Keith, of all of us, maybe Keith and Tommy are the ones who touch these topics the most. But I know like the core of our coverage is really foreign policy.
It all relates though, because these wars create the conditions of, serve or starve. Like a lot of Iraqis were selling their kids to rich Arabs from the outside because they didn't want them to starve to death from Clinton's sanctions. 500,000 children starved to death, and they were selling their kids into sex slavery because at least they'll get to live.
Yeah, it does all relate.
It is the war. Like it starts with the lie, and then it goes to the war, and then the war create obviously death, destruction, and all that. But it destroys economies, which creates black markets for human trafficking, organ trafficking, mercenary soldiers. All this other shit derives from the wars, as well as the starvation and disease and things that wouldn't exist had there not been a war, or blown up their infrastructure, or blow up their sewage treatment centers like we did in Iraq. But all that starts with the lie. And the lie, whether it's about WMDs or babies on incubators or pre-crimes or gassing your own people, whatever the bullshit is reiterated by mass media. And our entire mass media is Zionist occupied. So of course they're going to lie and get us involved in wars with Israel's enemies in the Middle East. All that shit stops if you just tell the fucking truth. Like without their ability to deceive, the evil has no power for the murder and rape and the rest of it that comes after. You have to strike the root. The truth will set you free, right? Well, tell the truth where? Because it's not going to be on the 3-letter networks. These are billion-dollar industries run by Zionists. That's not going to change. Social media was the only place. And now they're working with the FBI and stuff as we see. Like, Elon needs to keep his promise for general amnesty. And I promise you, if he unbans everybody, just as quickly as we got rid of pedophilia, we could end all this shit in a month. If the truth got out, for even a fucking day, if you had 5 minutes to tell the basic couch potato, Sally soccer mom, Joe Sixpack, what the fuck's going on in the world about Ukraine, about any of these conflicts, just sit down and go, they had a coup in Maidan, and just walk through, right? If they would just do that once, we wouldn't have these fucking wars. No, we wouldn't have sanctions starving kids. Show the pictures of the babies in Yemen with the ribs poking out in their little diapers and stuff, their bones just wasting away. That shit would end if people saw it. But it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't cover it. But we could if we had free speech. I'd be doing that every day if I have a Twitter. I would find a new picture of babies starving in Yemen and going, this is going on in Yemen. Day whatever. Just keep that number bigger. Still being ignored. Still being ignored. Still being ignored. Well, that's why I'm not allowed on these things. But I realize you have to show people. You can write about it all day. The problem with people, the disconnect with low IQ people lack imagination, right? That's why they have no spatial intelligence. So a lot of this is because the way we're raised is TV and Netflix, whatever. They see everything and they're never exercising their imagination. They're not reading a book and imagining the whole thing in their head. It's just given to them from the screen, from their cell phone, from the TV, from whatever, right? So the sad thing is when you're talking about starvation in Yemen, to use my example, you have to fucking show them kids with their eyes sunk in and the ribs poking out and desperate mothers and stuff. They have to see it. You have to see Palestinians with the legs blown off and stuff. And then it's like, wake up call, motherfucker. Yeah, you're doing that. You're paying for that. Get pissed off about it. Because if they just hear, a bus blew up, 65 people died, it's like the Joker said in Batman, they don't bat an eye. Because they can't see it. Like when you or I hear that, we're like, holy fuck, that's 64 families that are missing children. Like it really hurts. It really sinks in because we have the ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. How do you do that? You do that through your imagination. I don't mean creativity. I mean, imagine you're like, okay, what if I was there and a bus blew up and my son was dead? Like, it's horrifying. Hits you right there. But people who lack that skill, you have to show them. And like, I'm like, you can write all these articles. Great. It's good talking to each other. But if you really want to affect the masses, show them photographs of what's going on, then write your article. Because that, man, if they knew, I don't think people in America are just immoral and heartless. I think they're ignorant. If they were able to see the shit the media will not let you see, like, man, check this out. What's the one horror you can talk about that you see endless photos and films of? It's considered the most evil thing in the world, right? The thing that happened in World War II. They show you those dilapidated bodies. They show you those pictures, and rightly so. Everyone condemns the Holocaust, as they ought to. But why aren't we seeing that with the 2 million people we killed in Vietnam, or why don't we see that? We never see the pictures. Some guy took a picture of coffins with American flags draped over it and got fired for just showing the boxes, because there's bodies in there, right? They don't see what we're doing. A little bit of pictures got leaked out by people like Cy Hirsch on Abu Ghraib, the most mild stuff. And guess what happened? The whole world turned against the Iraq War. Everyone agrees the second Iraq War was the worst. Why? Because photos went out of Abu Ghraib.
They saw it.
Look at Iraq War I, just as horrible. Highway of death, starvation. They didn't see the photos because the internet wasn't around in 91. And so everyone supported that. The second war came out, early internet got the photos out, and people opposed Bush's war. And that's why they couldn't get boots on the ground in Syria, because they saw it. So now they decided, hell no, we got to get a hold on social media too. We can't have people sharing pictures of children and stuff of what they're doing, right? The video the Nazis put out in Ukraine, shooting people to the knees and throwing naked bodies into ditches. They said that was the Russians doing it. No, it wasn't. That was Ukrainian Nazis that we paid for from Azov and Right Sector and others. They're the ones that were doing that. That's why they went back to Bucha, because after Lehman, these people were so stupid. Their cell phone cameras came out. The Russians captured them, got the video footage. Like, look at what they did. Look at what they did. Did they play that on any of the networks? Fuck no. Did they allow it on Twitter? No. Like, there's no way to be on YouTube or Facebook, right? Twitter has to change. And I'm telling you now, man, if we get free speech, it is over for the neocons, for the pedophiles, for this evil, fucking corrupt, demonic cabal, whatever you want to call it. They have no power without deception.
Perception.
Deception. Yeah.
Perception.
Perception by deception. Yeah, right. Like,
exactly.
That's what they do. The father of lies, John 8, right? Like John 8:44, right? They can't tell the truth, for there is no truth in them. And it's always screaming in pain as they beat you. They always accuse others of what they're really doing themselves. You got to hear the Texas speech, because I went all in. I'm going to read it to maybe tomorrow.
Amen.
Yeah, it's fucking good. The audio recording was kind of shit, so I'm just going to read the same thing verbatim. But like, this is how low tech I am. I just,
no, you hear me at home, Ryan. That's it, dude. We all feel that, man. And
dude, you stop the lies, you stop it all, and it all starts with the media. I'm like, give me my fucking wings, give me my Twitter back, and we'll fix this. Because if I'm back, means everybody else is back. And like that's why Reed's banned. That's why I'm banned. That's why you're probably gonna get banned or whatever. Like, if the ones that are really a threat to the system are the first to go. And that mean there are other people who are still a threat to the system that have gotten through the cracks or whatever. Like, that's all we have left, though. But man, if they brought him back, just imagine if we just had free speech, they wouldn't be able to get away with lying to everybody about every conflict. We can't just rely on like Glenn Greenwald and like the few people out there who are willing to tell you the truth. Like, it ought to be everybody. But they don't let us talk.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to find cracks through the system, like certain Libertarian Party affiliate accounts. It's the only way to get it out there.
I really like the one from New Hampshire.
Yeah, they're pretty based for some reason. Yeah.
We like the Libertarian Institute too. They're very fine people over there. They do great work.
Antiwar.com was a godsend. Like, early, I think I said this before we were recording, like Justin Raimondo did so much damage to the system. He was talking about the Office of Special Plans and Douglas Feith and stuff before people in the Pentagon even knew what it was. I mean, that guy was on top of it. He predicted the whole Ukraine conflict before he passed away. He goes, this is the future of war and what they're doing. He talked about the oxide poisoning and stuff. He talked about the coup. Like, I miss him. He was really a thought leader, and he was the chief editor of antiwar.com. And, it's like, I was like, we still got Scott, like at least Scott Horton. Like, there's a lot of Jim Loeb. There's so many great writers on antiwar.com, but let's not shit ourselves, dude. Justin Raimondo was here, and everyone else is around here.
Scott Horton is to be protected at all costs.
He's up there too, and so is Scott Ritter. And I know what people criticize him for, but if you know what that actually was, it's not what people think it was. But even if he had done the things he's accused of, which he didn't, it doesn't make him wrong on Ukraine. Like, it's just like, this guy's a fucking serial killer and belongs in prison where he is, but it doesn't change what he said in his manifesto,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way. That's a good place to fucking cap it off. I
agree. Fuck Lincoln. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I needed this stream. I was feeling I've felt kind of black pilled and hopeless lately because, a lot has happened this year. I've learned a lot this year, and I've tried to, point as many people in the right direction as I can this year. I've tried to bring people like you, Ryan, and you, Patrick, and Scott Horton, and Dave Smith, and Spike Cohen, and all these people who know stuff about foreign policy and what's going on in the world. And it's just so aggravating. I hear what you're saying, Ryan, about the fact that we just need to be able to get out there and say it. But even when my own family, I can't even get all my own immediate family to pay attention to this stuff and to care about it, even though I send
have a
them
tactic for that. You can't talk to your family. Eric should talk to your family. Someone that's not in the family has to talk to your family, and then you need to talk to their family, because there's just a dynamic within a family that's sometimes not going to work.
Yeah.
We should record Christmas greetings from Dawson. He reads part of it in Japanese, and then he just fucking red pills about the war.
Just don't do my Al Qaeda Christmas album. Remember that?
Yeah.
What was it? It was it was to Jingle Bells. Dashing through the homes over children's bones. Oh, what fun it is to laugh, take pictures with their phones. Chosen one, it's racism on display. Play human shields and they burn their fields and take their land away. It was on the U.S. dime, this land's all mine, and God said it's okay.
Dude, that's hot fire, dude. Ye's gonna don't let Ye hear that. Man. He's gonna steal that from you, Dawson.
No, I have a real album. I have a whole album.
Ye will steal that.
Frosty the Fireman. I'm dreaming.
My new rap album. Pat, what does your family think about your activism, Pat, and what you do? Do they look at you like a weirdo, or are they cool with what you're doing?
Well, yeah.
I get what Reed's saying.
It's been I don't know 6 years now, and when I met my wife, I was not as into this, and on some level, there's been a little bit of you're not the same person kind of thing, but no one is the same person, and I've gotten a lot better at partitioning things,
balancing.
I guess my biggest wish is that I could find a way to make as much money doing this as I do being a lawyer, and I don't think that will ever happen. So
there's no money in this. Fucking
not really. Yeah, but I try to do both, and sometimes it feels like I half-ass both.
Do you know any anti-defamation lawyers? I'd like to sue the ADL for defamation.
Yeah.
I could sue the Anti-Defamation League for defamation. Yep.
Well, I'm a criminal defense lawyer in family law right now. I've done personal injury before, some civil rights stuff, but
yeah,
it's a little different. I'm with you, Reed, on the white pill. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. No, this was good. I needed this.
It's easy.
I think what would tap it off perfectly is an inspiring message from Governor Jesse Ventura. We haven't heard from him all night, so I just want to hear some inspiring words from him as we close out.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned me, Reed. I've been waiting for you to mention me all night. I'm just sitting here with my pre-Parkinson's wondering when Reed's going to call me. And it's the holiday seasons. I like the mask. I know I went a little boomer con with the COVID theater, but I'm still Jesse the Body. I'm still based on a lot of things. I like Pat MacFarlane. I want them in my side of the ring when I'm fighting the neocons and the war hawks and the China hawks and the CCP blamers on everything. Libertarian Institute does great work. Antiwar.com does great work. ANCreport.com does great work. You guys are you should be commended for what you do. All is not lost.
How do you stay cross-eyed that whole time?
I'm taking a lot of chairs to the head.
We can all agree it was not as bad as J6 when 6 million police officers were killed with fire extinguishers. He went boomer on that too. He was like,
"Oh yeah, the Capitol."
He gets a pass on some of his boomer cringe just because
he's
him.
actually a boomer. Yeah, dude, he's sporting a mullet even now. So
my Skullet Ryan is undeniable.
Skullet, yeah,
the Skullet's everything.
Who wore it better, Jesse Ventura or Mrs. Brady? Hey, look, it's one of the best mullets ever. Ben Franklin. You think about it. When he was older, he had a mullet. It was all style and profiling. I bet he.
All right, Eric, give us your plugs, and we'll get out of here because we're over 2 hours now.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Pat, thanks for coming on, man. It's great to wrap with you. Yeah, everyone, just follow me, Jackman Radio on Instagram and Twitter. And if you like what we do, I'm on Venmo. It's Senator Jackman 86. If you want an impression request or want to send me a tip for entertaining and informing and the shit that I do, I appreciate it. And we're on YouTube at Jackman Radio.
Ryan,
I would Venmo you if I wasn't banned from Venmo, but I would like you to work on Tom My Soul. Patrick, thanks for coming on. I hope you don't regret it.
I don't think so, Ryan. It was a pleasure to meet you, man.
The Libertarian Institute's everything, man. And I hope like people like Dan McAdams, and I hope all these people on Duran, they all get their wings back. That's what we need. I am on Rumble and Odysee, ANCreport.com. I guess I have a parlor. No one uses that. I have a Telegram. I have Telegram and Substack. So you can find Ryan Dawson on Substack. And we have a Telegram group, the ANC Report. But it's some of the people in there I cannot control. They're people. They're
same. I've had the same
colorful.
issue.
Yeah, it's just you can't. It's like.
I mean, you can, but then like, what's the point? Like, if you're banning people left and right, like, why even have a fucking?
I started
chat?
to. I used to have rules. You can't say like, don't be a 9/11 denier or stuff like that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna ban you if you're stupid. And like, what's that? I'm like, well, I'm judge and jury on that. It's my Telegram, whatever. You're saying stuff is dumb. I can't deal with the headache. Just get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I might start doing that because it's getting kind of out of hand in my fucking Telegram chat.
Just put no kook shit, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Patrick.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It was good to see everybody. And right now, the Libertarian Institute is having our winter fundraiser. So if you go to libertarianinstitute.org/donate, you can get a bunch of really cool shit. Part of that is a one single run t-shirt. So you better get them now before they're gone. It says Libertarian Institute, and whatever it is, we're against it. I just started my new show. It's called Vital Dissent, vitaldissent.com. I have a documentary series coming out about the radiological weapons project that was a parallel program to the Manhattan Project. And there's some really sick shit in there about the plutonium injection experiment. So that's coming out relatively soon. But I think
is that what happened to McCain?
Part of it.
Is that how the Pelosi was made in a pod? You see the book she's reading? I think everybody needs to get into Fed. By Dr. Ron Paul. If everyone knew what was in that book, the world would be a better place. It just sucks. All the good guys don't have a voice. And
let me put it to you this way:
psychopaths get to talk.
Give me a waterboard Dick Cheney in 15 minutes, and I'm confessing to the Sharon Tate murders.
All right, guys, we're going to cap it off there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Final Four Horsemen for the year. I've made a couple announcements on some social media. I am going to be scaling back a little bit after Christmas, not quitting the show or anything, but instead of like 2 or 3 episodes per week. I'm probably going to be doing a few per month and just trying to really focus on, more in-depth episodes here and there. And I'm also going to be trying to focus more on blue collar work and stuff, because I feel like that's the community where I can really actually have a voice and really make a huge difference. So there are going to be a couple small changes coming up, but don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. And for anyone who I don't see for the rest of the year, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you for watching the Four Horsemen.